are going to study the various solving methods for the discrete time state space equation, and you have the in the end of this lecture you will have the ability to analyze the state space equation and solve it for your desired states, and with any of the method. And one is the solution to the LTI discrete system by recursion process. Second method is the state transition matrix. The last one is the formation of Z transform method for the LTI discrete time control system. After that, we will be able to obtain the pulse transfer function for the state space model. Before moving on, uh, let's first of all discuss the characteristic of the state space model, in which the system transfer function is not unique. However, for a given pulse transfer function, there are n state space model possibility that exist, and therefore, if such condition occurs where the transfer function is not unique, therefore we will move toward the similarity transformation. Now consider the system defined by the following state space model. That's where the xk plus 1 equal to g x of k plus h u of k, and the output of this model is being represented by the y of k, that's equal to cxk plus du of k. Now if you want to perform the similarity transformation, for that thing that we have to define a new state vector. Let's say that it's denoted by x with the symbol above it, x of k, that's equal to px similarity transformed of the k, where p is the non-singular matrix, means that if you take the determinant, it will not be equal to 0. Then we can modify the equation as follows. Putting this equation 2 in 1, we get the first transformed form of the state equation, which is px into k plus 1 equal to gpx, that is transformed of k plus h u of k. Okay, now we need to move this p toward the right side, and we will be pre-multiply both sides with the p inverse because it's a matrix form. So we obtain the final transformed form of the our desired state equation, that's equal to xk plus 1, that's equal to p inverse gp of x state vector k plus p inverse h u of k. So we can also define our new state matrices for our system G and for our input matrix H. We just replace this thing with our H new similarity transform matrix, and we also transform this thing with a new vector which is G transformed. Now similarly, we can also transform our output of the given system into the transformed form of the output that will be equivalent to our output equation of the previous model. So in doing the applying the same rules, we just place our transformed vector state vector in place of C and D if we have the state vector as there as well. Similarly, by defining these C of P with a new similarity transformed matrix C and D, that will remain same for the our new transformed matrix. Now after applying the transformations, you can easily relate the original system with that of the transformed system. Now the difference between them is that we have introduced a P matrix that was a non-singular matrix that helped us to transform our state equation into the similar equation that will be giving us the same result. So since these two equations are equivalent to each other, therefore we call these new equation as a similar transformation or similarity transformation theorem, which we have applied now. Now, uh, concluding this similarity transformation, we are sometimes asked to form a matrix which is a G transformed matrix to be a diagonal matrix. Now if you want to make the G similarity transform to be a diagonalized matrix, for that case you need to choose the elements of this P matrix very wisely, such that if you apply the P inverse G of P, that is actually equal to the transform matrix of the G new similarity transform G matrix, it will be diagonalized matrix. Sometimes it is also possible that you are not able to diagonalize the matrix by any mean. In that case, the transformation will be turned into as a Jordan matrix. It means that there are roots which are repeating in the characteristic equation. Well, in the end of this book that we are using, the author has proposed a method that will help you to transform the G matrix into a diagonal matrix or into the Jordan canonical form. So for that, you can, for further study, you can also see the appendix of this book in the end of section. Let's try to solve the discrete time state space equation by using three different methods. One is the recursion process, states transition matrix formation, and the last one is the Z transform method. Alright, let's begin to solve the solution for duality discrete system by applying the recursion process. This process is quite simple, and you need to just to increment the steps for your discrete values starting from 0 to onward. And here, as you can see, that we have a state equation x k plus 1 that's equal to the G and H. Similarly, the y is the output, that's equal to C matrix plus D matrix as well. And if you place the value of k is equal to 0, at k is equal to 0, you will have the x1 that's equal to G with initial state of x0 plus H for u of 0. And similarly, if you apply the value of 1, it will become x into 2, that will be at the state 2, equal to G x of 1 plus H of u of 1. That means that each time when you increment the value of k, there is an increment, the state equation is one step ahead, and it depends on the prior condition that is also termed as the initial condition, what it was before when you actually increment the value of k. Now by doing that, we can make a table to obtain the values of our states at x1, x2 and x3, where we go that x1 is equal to Gx at 0 plus H u at 0. Similarly, x of 2, that's equal to Gx1 plus H u of 1, and you can also realize that x of 1 is actually equal to the value of Gx of 0 plus H u of 0. So you will be able to plunge down the value from the previous step That's why we call it as a recursion process, because each time it's tabulating the new term, it's also fetching the values from the prior term as well. So by doing that, you can easily obtain the values of the output states at x1, at x at 2, and the x at 3. So you can easily form a generalized equation where x of k is actually equal to g of k and x of 0 plus the summation of all these terms has been computed in the form of a program where the value for this range will be beginning from the k is equal to 1, 2 and so on. However, the initial condition at 0 have been marked here. Alright. Now if you observe this table, you will be realizing that this our state is depending on two main things. One is the initial condition and the other one is the states of the inputs. So I hope that you are now clear that whenever you are moving ahead to obtain the next state, each time the previous state will act as an initial condition for your next stage, as well as your input is also depending on the initial conditions as well. So you can easily mark those things with the help of a new variable, that is j. J actually starts from 0 to k minus 1, one step lower than that of the k, and k is initiated from 1 to onward. So finally we have mentioned a generalized form of the output by just with the help of our recursion table. If you are able to form by placing the values of k in this equation, and you will be able to form the same recursion table as that for the x state.
And it is to be noted that the generic form of the x of k that you have obtained in the equation A, you have to substitute this equation in this above main output equation. So by substituting the value of x of k in this y of k equation, you will be able to get the recursive output as follows. So this is our finalized recursive output, where the x of k has been placed in terms by substituting the equation of the a. So that's how this is actually working. Alright, let's discuss another method to evaluate our state space equation to find out the output responses. This is a method is actually called as the state transition matrix, in which we will be able to form the state transition matrix formation. So it is also possible to write the solution of the state equation as in the equation that is mentioned above in the homogeneous form. That means that all the inputs will be set to 0. Now if you observe that this is our state equation, x of k plus 1 is equal to g of xk plus h u of k. Since we have set the homogeneous formation, so that means the u of k is equal to 0, there is no input. Now in doing that, we obtain the x of k plus 1 that's equal to g of xk, and here we can define our new state vector, that is x of k, that's equal to the psi of k at the initial condition x of 0, where the psi of k is a unique n cross n dimensional matrix that satisfies the condition that at the initial condition at the k is equal to 0, the psi will be equal to identity matrix. So you can easily mention it over here. You can transform your state equation in the form of the psi matrix formation, that is a psi state transition matrix, psi of k plus 1 that's equal to g into psi of k, where psi of k is the new state vector. How it is being done, it's very simple. We just introduce this new state uh, vector x of k that's equal to the psi of k x of the 0, that's initial condition, and we also said that at k is equal to 0 your psi of 0 will be an identity matrix. So we just now plunge down this value and replace it with this factor, so we obtain our new state equation in term of the psi. Now in this way you can also relate the psi of k with that of the system matrix in term of k, and this is how it is related by psi of k that's equal to the system matrix G of in term of k. So from equation 5 and 6, these are nothing more just a transformation of the initial condition, and this psi of k is called the state transition matrix, and it is also called as a fundamental matrix that contains all the information regarding the system motion and its movement, how it will behave when it is excited by any of the input. Now let us consider this equation A once again that we evaluated from the recursion process, and we have to transform it in term of our state transition matrix, that is psi of k, and in this previous step we have evaluated that our psi of k is actually equal to g of k, so we will just substitute our values in term of g of k and represent it in term of a state transition matrix. That means we are going to transform our state equation in term of a state transition matrix. So let's see this how it done. We have replaced the coefficients of the g of k with that of the psi of k, and also transform our this step g of k minus j minus 1 in term of psi of k minus j minus 1, and this is how we have obtained our state equation in term of our state transition matrix. We can also easily transform this thing, our output in term of a state transition matrix as well, by just replacing with all the variables we have defined in the previous page, and just setting all of them in term of the psi of k. So there, this is how the output equation has been mentioned in term of our state transition form. Now this is the last form of obtaining our system response from the given state equation, by just writing the state equation in term of a z transform, and in the end just taking the z inverse of that system. So keeping in mind the transformation theorems from the chapter 1 and 2, you can easily convert the given state transition equation in term of z transform. If you apply the z transform on both sides, x of k plus 1, what will happen? It's a time shifting property of the z transform. It will be z into x of z given with the initial condition minus z x of 0. Similarly, g of x of k will be transformed into g of x of z, and h of u of k will be transformed into h of u of z. Alright, so just we are now doing the simplification, because we have to form the our impulse transfer function. That means we will be just moving the x of z components on the left side and the input u of z on the right side. So while doing this, we obtain the z of I, that is the identity matrix, minus g matrix into x of z equal to z x of 0 initial condition plus h u of z. Alright, from here you can obtain this factor x of z by taking the pre-multiplying with the zi minus g inverse on both sides. While doing that, you obtain the x of z that's equal to z identity matrix minus g whole inverse z into x of initial condition at 0 plus z identity matrix minus g whole inverse with h and u of z. Since we are concerned about obtaining the x of k and y of k, so we can easily transform x of z by into x of k by taking the z inverse transformation. And let's apply the z inverse transform on both sides, where we obtain x of k that's equal to z inverse of zi minus g whole inverse x of 0 plus z inverse zi minus g whole inverse into h u of z. Now at this point we are being stuck to find out the value of C inverse of Zi minus G inverse, and this one as well, since we know the value of the H matrix and the input Q, but we need to evaluate Z inverse transform with that. So we need to apply some suitable method that can help us to evaluate the value of this thing. And previously you know that x of k plus 1 was equal to the g of the system matrix multiplied by x of at k. Since we are able to find out the our state at the system response, that is at the x of for the given x of k, but we have been stuck at this point while finding the z inverse. So what we can do at this point is we can relate this equation with the equation A that we have already evaluated, and it was actually x of k that was equal to g of k, where we have been told that it's equal to the state transition matrix. This g of k was actually the state transition matrix, given that it was that the initial condition was all set to 0. So from here what we realize that this is a state transition matrix, and by comparison this g of k will be equal to the z inverse of zi minus g inverse into z. So if we are able to find out this thing, we will be moved into the state transition matrix formation that was in the method number 2. So once again whatever we have done in the method number 2 was really a long computation, but with the help of this z transform method, which is a method number 3, you can easily find out the value of your system fundamentals as well as the state transition matrix. So if you have been given the information regarding the G matrix, you can easily find out the G of k for any value of k starting from 1 to onward, and by simply taking the inverse of z inverse zi minus g whole inverse, that is equal to adjoint of this factor divided by the determinant of this factor. So this is very simple. If you have been given the information regarding this g, let us this is an assignment for you guys. You need to solve the 3 cross 3 matrix and just find out the value of the state transition matrix, that is g of k or psi of k. So best of luck for that thing. I hope so that you will be able to find out this as a specific example. When you do, just comment the answer below in the comment section, or just email me your answer as well. Okay, let's discuss the last topic of this discussion, that is the pulse transfer function of for a given state space model. Now similarly in the linear control system, you have been transforming the state space equation into transfer function and transfer function into the state space and vice versa. Similarly, you can also been asked to transform the given state space model into the pulse transfer function. Okay, fine. That means that you have to obtain the output y of z over for the given u of z, that is the input, which is the pulse transfer function in z domain. Now this can be easily done for a given state space model. If you have the values of the matrices G, H, C and D, you can easily transform that information into a unique impulse transfer function for a given state space model by simply doing the same replica of that transfer function equation for the continuous time domain. But here we have been given the f of z that's equal to the C matrix, which is same in the place as that of the continuous domain, z of I minus g, because the system have been transformed into a discrete time system. So S has been replaced with the Z factor, and the A matrix have been transformed into a system matrix G, with that of the inverse of the ZI minus G multiplied by the H, which is the input matrix, plus the feed forward matrix D. So obtaining this Zi minus G is same as that of obtaining the mathematical, as you have done in your maths. That's equal to the adjoint of the Zi minus G divided by Zi minus G determinant. So that's how you actually transform the state space model into the impulse transfer function.